What up? Jeff here with all my Bitcoin renegades. And today we're doing a video that is going to be an educational video about the graph and the GRT token that it has, as well as the Web3 ecosystem surrounding it. Now, the graph is actually one of the biggest AI cryptos in crypto right now. It has absolutely gone crazy with tons of people looking it up, tons of people wanting to know about it, and it is a big part of Web3. Now, this technology is pretty similar to Google. Now, what it does is it stores data so that it can be queried, which means it can be called upon at any time by decentralized exchanges, protocols, and anything that can use data storage system on the blockchain, right? So we are going to make a tutorial video today to help you understand a little bit better about what the graph is. Now, I am making this video to give you guys a little bit of a preview on the series that we're going to have hopefully coming up if things work out correctly, and we will be doing more in-depth analysis on the graph. We're going to do in-depth research and kind of up-to-date updates on what is going on in real time. So you're going to want to smash that like button and subscribe to this channel for more. When you like the content, it helps the algorithm, and it helps me know that you guys are liking this stuff and that I'm doing a good job, and it really helps to promote the brand, right? So now that that's out of the way, let's get into learning about what the graph is. This is going to be your basic tutorial to understand what this crypto does, right? So let's get into this. We are going to go right over here to the graph.com. This is the ecosystem page, and this is what we are going to learn about today. So once you want to get started with the graph, start with the basics about the graph, Web3, and how subgraphs are used in the development stack. Learn about how open source subgraphs empower Web3, and it really does. It is, like I said, the basic Web3 version of Google. And so what is the graph? Well, let's go learn more about the basics of the graph network right here. So this page will explain what the graph is and how you can get started. Now, I do like that this website has all sorts of stuff for you to learn. And this is on thegraph.com. So what is the graph? So the graph is a decentralized protocol for indexing and querying data from blockchains, starting with Ethereum. It makes it possible to query data that is difficult to query directly, and it would cost a lot of money to store on Ethereum. So that's why a protocol like the graph is very important to blockchains like Ethereum and even Cosmos and other complex ecosystems, right? So projects with complex smart contracts like Uniswap and NFTs initiatives like Bored Ape Yacht Club store data on the Ethereum blockchain, making it really difficult to read anything other than basic data directly from the blockchain. In the case of Bored Ape Yacht Club, we can perform basic read operations on the contract, like getting the owner of a certain ape, getting the content URL of an ape based on their ID, or the total supply, as these read operations are programmed directly into the smart contract. But more advanced real-world queries and operations like aggregation, search, relationships, and non-trivial filtering are not possible. For example, if we want to query for apes that are not owned by a certain address and filter by one of its characteristics, we would not be able to get that information by interacting directly with the contract itself. So basically what this is saying, let's come back for a second, is that little pieces of data can be stored directly on the blockchain. Why? It costs a lot of money to store data on Ethereum. It just does. It is like $100 million a year for 1 gigabyte of data, right? So what they do is they get all of the important information into the smart contract. But if you want to know detailed specifics, you're going to need a crypto and an ecosystem like the Graph and the GRT crypto that is the crypto that runs the protocol, right? So this is very important for, a lot of these decentralized exchanges like Uniswap and stuff to run appropriately. They are going to need something like the Graph in order to run it. Now, let's get more into this, but I just want to stop every now and again to kind of touch base with you guys. So if we wanted to get this data, you would have to process every single transfer event ever emitted. Read the metadata from IPFS using the token ID and IPFS hash, and then aggregate it. Even for these types of relatively simple questions, it would take hours or even days for a decentralized application, or DApp, running in a browser to get an answer. You could also build your own server, process the transactions there, save them to a database, and build an API endpoint on top of it all in order to query the data. However, this option is resource intensive, needs maintenance, presents a single point of failure, and breaks important security properties required for decentralization. So indexing blockchain data is really, really hard. So blockchain properties like finality, chain reorganizations, and uncled blocks complicate this process further. Uncled blocks. And makes it not just time consuming, but conceptually hard to retrieve correct query results from blockchain data. The Graph solves this with a decentralized protocol that indexes and enables the performant and efficient querying of blockchain data. So it is basically telling us that it is doing like what Google does. It goes through all of this information in totality, and then it can store that data for you to call on it anytime in a cheap and efficient way. It isn't going to take days, months, or years to get the data that you need. It's going to be almost instantaneous, or however long the finality of the Graph is, to get that, which is going to be a lot faster than Ethereum by itself. And it's going to have a lot more data because that's what it does, right? This is huge for Web3. Now, that's about all I'm going to go into on about what the Graph is. Now we are going to look at some of the PowerPoints of the Graph, like the market cap and all of that. We're not going to go into price or anything, but I do want to show us where we are in the rankings, how it's holding up, and a little bit more about that part of the Graph. So let's get into that here. Thank you guys for showing up today. It really means a lot that you guys are here. Now, the Graph is actually ranked number 40 on the coin market cap cryptocurrencies by market cap. It has a market cap of $1.4 billion. Now, that is pretty awesome when you think of it being number 40. There is a lot of good cryptos out there, and to be ranked 40 out of every single crypto out there is amazing. And as you see, it runs on Ethereum, but it is also capable of running data for multiple different blockchains. So you can actually get this crypto on multiple exchanges, almost on every major exchange. It's on your Binances, your Coinbase, your KuCoin, Kraken, which the stuff going on with Kraken lately, but it's on there. Bitfinex, Bitstamp, and more. Uniswap, of course. And let's see, there is more. Bithumb, Gemini, Sushi Swap. And the reason that it's on these decentralized exchanges is because that it can query data for them, right? And you have wrapped Ethereum in the Graph over here on Sushi Swap. So this is major. All of these have high transaction volumes and recent activity. So this shows you that the Graph is widely used in the market. It has definite future potential to be a top 20 crypto, maybe even a little bit higher, but I'm just going to say about top 20. Now, I do want to go into see what this talks about it as well. So what is the Graph? Basically, we already went over that, but I wanted to read this part. To date, over 3,000 subgraphs have been deployed by thousands of developers for dapps like Uniswap, Synthetics, Aragon, Aave, Gnosis, Balancer, LivePeer, DAOstack, Decentraland, and many others. The graph usage has been growing at over 50% month over month and hit over 7 billion queries during the month of September 2020. The graph has a global community, including over 200 indexer nodes in the testnet and more than 2,000 curators in the curator program as of October 2020. And that was a long time ago, and I'm sure it has, grown significantly since then. To fund network development, the graph raised funds from community members, strategic VCs, and influential individuals in the blockchain community, including Coinbase Ventures, DCG, Framework, Parify Capital, CoinFund, DTC, Multicoin, Reciprocal Ventures, SPC, Tally Capital, and others. The Graph Foundation also successfully completed a public GRT sale with participation from 99 countries, not including the US, to date as November 2020. And that's what we're going to talk about there. So I also want to go and talk a little bit about what these subgraphs are, right? We will talk about Web3 for a second first. Web3 is basically the internet on the blockchain, right? Web 2 is any regular internet protocol. Google is Web 2. They're the king, the juggernaut of Google. Actually, Google runs YouTube. Shout out Google. We're not saying that the graph is going to replace Google. It is the Google of blockchains, just a comparison, right? Basically, it does on the blockchain what Google does for Web 2. So Web 3 is your new internet, as we call it. It is the new standard for this internet that we have here. So this is what we are going to want to see going forward, is more Web3 development, more subgraphs, more interest in, funding from different places that really want to develop the ecosystem, right? So now let's go into what subgraphs are, right? What are subgraphs? So a subgraph extracts data from a blockchain, processing it and storing it so that it can be easily queried via GraphQL. So the subgraph definition consists of a few files. A subgraph is a YAML file containing the subgraph manifest. This is kind of technical, but we're going to skim through that. Yeah, you can come and read this if you want. Before you go into detail about contents of the manifest file, you need to install the Graph CLI, which you will need to build and deploy a subgraph. And then this is all just technical stuff, but yeah, basically this is telling you how it all works. I'm not going to go into this because I don't think that you really need to know all of this to understand what Web3 is. But this, if you are a technical person, you want to know how it runs, this is going to be for you. Now let's go into Web3 Substack, or the Web3 stack. So this is going to be your really in-depth stuff about Web3. So if you want to build on Web3, Nader Dabit identifies the building blocks of the Web3 technology stack in an introductory guide. So this is going to basically get you up to date with how it is working and everything. So let's shout out the edgeandnode.com, this blog author, Nader Dabit. This was written December 22nd, 2021. We are going to give credit to him where it is deserved right there. I transitioned into Web3 in April 2021 after being a traditional full stack developer for around 10 years. While diving into all of these new technologies and ideas, the first thing I wanted to know was, what is the Web3 stack? When building a traditional web or mobile application, I often depend on a handful of building blocks to get the job done. API, app servers, authentication layer, database, client-side frameworks, platforms, and libraries, and file storage. And that's the big one that people can understand a lot better, is the file storage. It basically stores data, and then it pulls on it whenever it needs it, just like a browser. Using these core components, I can build out most types of applications I would like to, or at least get most of the way there. So what did this look like in Web3? It turns out the answer to this is not so straightforward, because the paradigm is completely different in many ways. The Web3 tools, technologies, and ecosystem are less mature than Web2 because blockchain is fairly new. It's only been around for about 12 to 14 years, 2009-ish. So, and then kind of 2 years after, I think it got a little bigger, but yeah, about 14 years or so. It was also harder for me to understand how to get up and running with and build out Web3 applications, but I was approaching the problems in the same way that I was in the Web2 world. After working, researching, experimenting, and building things over the past 8 months or so, I'd like to share what I've learned. Well, here's his explanation of Web3. Before we define the Web3 stack, let's attempt to define Web3. There are countless definitions depending on who you ask, but to me, I find this definition spot on. Web3 is the stack of protocols that enable fully decentralized applications. Now, let's talk about that just for a second. Like I was saying, it is the decentralized version of Google because it's ran on the blockchain, right? And the graph actually went fully decentralized. There's no centralization of the graph anymore. So this is all done by AI or the blockchain, right? So this is incredible. This is what we are looking for going into the future of Web3. And we're not going to go more into defining the Web3 stack. I will kind of give it a little breakdown. What the Web3 stack is the building protocol. Just like if you're going to code a website, you're going to need all of those tools that we read above about the Web3 stack, but you're going to have to figure out how to do them on Web3. Now, this is a very complex process, and if you want to know more about it, I will link all of this stuff in the description below so that you can more fully understand if you want to go into detail how these things run. I'm just giving you a high-level overview of all of the stuff in general. So I'm going to be making more in-depth videos. We're going to go into exactly what the graph is doing now. All of this data I have is all the data from the past. So we are going to say, okay, what is Graph Day 2023 going to look like? What are the meetups that the graph protocol might be at? What they are doing right now? Any new progress? Because the graph before, I didn't know that it was an AI functionality, right? I didn't know it was an AI crypto on the Web3, right? So these are things we're going to go into more in detail in this series that I'm going to be creating. Basically, it's going to be the Graph Ecosystem series. And we are going to learn more and more about what this does, why we need it, and why Uniswap uses it, why Ethereum needs it, why SushiSwap uses it, why all of the Web3 can benefit from a crypto like the graph, and why the graph can help Web3 mature faster than any other crypto. So I really want to encourage all of you to do some more research on the graph. I would definitely not give you any financial advice on it. I am trying to get as much graph as I can because I believe in this project, and I'm interested in the curatorship of this because I don't need a lot of technical analytics for that or expertise for that. So what I'm going to do is look, how can I stake the graph? Can I delegate some graph to an indexer and have him, stake a bunch of my graph for me on Web3? So we're going to look into even if that's possible or not. So I just wanted to share this video with you. I hope you guys can find value from this, and we will go into much more detail in the future. All right, guys, that being said, goodbye and good GRT. Bang!